Holy 90s, what is that? Hey, Vanilla Ice called. He wants his RC back. Alright guys, welcome back to the playground. Glad you stopped by. So this is going to be Project Resuwrektion. So this platform is a Traxxas Stampede, and this was actually when Traxxas made kits and you build it yourself. So a while back. I can't remember exactly when I got this, sometime early mid-90s probably. But it was a build-it-yourself kit, so it had, no electronics, a generic clear pickup truck shell, nothing fancy. So over the years, I beat the snot out of that truck, and I'll bring you in closer to see some of the different oddball parts on here that are custom one-offs to keep me from breaking it all the time. But anyway, at one point, I decided I wanted to dress up the truck and get it fixed back up a little bit. Running-wise, it still ran fine. It's got like a Fireball something another 540 motor in it and an old Novak electronic speed control. It just looked terrible. So I found this body somewhere online on clearance for like $8. And I was like, Humvees are cool. I'll get one of those. And then I painted it, and I put it on here, and it originally had these wheels. So these are the stock wheels and tires. They came in like a white nylon, or you get them chrome. I bought the white nylon ones and was trying to dye them green to match the paint job. They came out green, but they came out like Hulk smash, like old comic book green. It wasn't a great look. But when I had, that one there, it looked even worse. So I had just gotten a Rustler. At the time I was going to fix this back up, and I immediately put different wheels and tires on that. So I took the Rustler tires off of one of my new Rustlers and stuck them on here. I drove it once or twice and it looks goofy, and because it looks goofy, I never really drove it any more than that. So it has been sitting on the shelf, and as you can see, it has been sitting on the shelf for quite a while. There's a layer of dust on there. But as far as this still has the old 27 megahertz radio on it, so I'll be replacing that, putting in a 2.4 gigahertz digital system in. Upgrade the servo, because as far as I know, this is the original servo that's in here, so it has seen some things. I know the shocks are good. I rebuilt them before I shelved it. So the shocks should be good. The springs seem a bit stiff, but it should be alright. I have these wheels and tires off of my old Wheelie King, so I believe those are going to be donor wheel and tires for it. So that will give it some lift and bring it back to a monster truck look instead of a bad edition of Pimp My Ride. But I was at the local hobby shop the other day, and I got something that basically inspired this build. So this is the J Concepts panel truck. What is it? 1951 panel truck body. It's Gravedigger, but they don't advertise it as Gravedigger. So I do have some stuff to order. I'm going to put a new ESC in this because, again, this Novak one has seen a lot of things. I'll probably get a new motor, again, because this one probably needs to have the comm cut, and I don't feel like messing with that. New radio system and servo, and then the body, wheels and tires, and I'll have to order the tall body mounts for the rear end. Fronts look like they fit, but the back definitely is going to have to come up, so I'll have to find the rear body mounts to raise up the rear. And we're just going to have fun with it. I'm not going to paint it Gravedigger. I'm probably going to try to find a cool two-tone, kind of classic panel van, hot roddy style, and paint it up that way. So let me bring you in real close, and I want to show you a few little quirky things on this truck that I did way back when, and did it with very rudimentary tools, but has lended itself to allowing this thing to see the punishment it took. So, real quick, this is the Novak XRS speed controller, the Fireball motor I was telling you about, and as you can see, this is classic old school Stampede. But some of the things that make it unique is this is a homemade aluminum front shock tower mount. I kept bending or breaking and screwing up stuff because that front shock tower just was not strong enough. So I made an aluminum one and have yet to have a problem with it. So basically we just modded, we have this 1/8 inch plate aluminum, modded the front body mounts to basically bolt through, so the shock and the mount all bolts through the shock mounts or shock towers. So we made front and rear aluminum chassis braces, motor mount guards, motor guards, front bumper. So essentially this bolts in, acts like a front bumper as well as part of the bottom bulkhead. So there's 2 more screws underneath here that hold the bulkhead on, and then these 2 go through the aluminum plate and the bulkhead. But it gave it a really nice, you know, nosedive, and you can see it's a little bit cockeyed because it's taken a couple hard hits and bent the aluminum. But this part is still true. The rear end works great as an integrated wheelie bar slash rear bulkhead mount slash motor guard. So it comes up and protects the rear end as well in case somebody smacks in the rear end of you. So again, this was all just done with hand tools, drills, files. At one point they were polished. So I'm going to head inside. I'm going to try to convince my wife that this is a good idea, because I've already had to convince her more than once to keep this thing alive. And I'll start ordering the few parts I need and get this guy going. For you guys, it's going to be in an instant. For me, it's probably going to be a couple weeks. So see you then. Alright guys, so quick update. Started getting some parts in for Project Resuwrektion. Still haven't started on the body yet. So what I was thinking on the body was, you know, a classic kind of panel van, you know, center stripe down the side. So dark at the top, or dark at the top, dark at the bottom, and then a colored stripe in the middle or something. The more I'm looking at those, the more I'm kind of interested in them. So I'm thinking about doing something completely different and going down a completely different avenue. So cross your fingers. It may come out crap, it may not. I'm hoping it doesn't. But anyway, we got some parts in. So we got the Traxxas 3619 body mount set. So this will allow for the taller body mounts in the rear and adjustable front and rear. So I can get that body set on here how it needs to be. Picked up 2.4 gigahertz receiver for my Spectrum radio, so we'll be able to slap that guy in here and run that on an updated radio. Got the 25 kg, you know, Amazon special servo. Anyway, the awesome thing. So, cruising around on AMain's website, you know, let's look to see about ordering some parts, you know, body mounts and stuff. And I was like, all right, let me see what they have in motor speed control combos. Let's see if they have anything brushless that isn't going to break the bank. I obviously don't want to stick a $200 brushless system in an old, partially worn out truck. I mean, it's all in all, everything on it should be fairly rejuvenated as is, driveline wise. But, you know, this truck was not ever meant to see, you know, super high brushless power. So, luckily, I was scrolling about and something popped up in the scratch and dent section, and they had a ESC motor combo. It's a hobby wing combo, and all they had done with it was a programming demonstration. So it's never actually run. It's just been reprogrammed from the stock settings, so therefore they couldn't sell it full price. But we got a hobby wing easy run motor and speed control combo for like 55 bucks. So it pays to go surfing around through websites to see if they have any scratch and dent stuff. So this is the Max 10 SCT centerless brushless ESC. It's a 3660 and a 4000 kV motor. So, you know, the plans I had of not putting like a Psycho motor in this, you know, that's kind of out the window. So, you know, I was not expecting to put this type of combo. I was looking to get, you know, like a cheap all-in-one hobby, the Fusion series or something like that. You know, spend $130 and get something. But, you know, for $55, honestly, if it blows this transmission up, I'm probably still going to laugh because, you know, to replace the transmission in this is, you know, $20. So I'm still coming out ahead of the game if I grenade the whole rear end of this thing. But yes, nice, beautiful brushless motor. Doesn't ever look like it was stuck in anything. And then the speed controller already comes equipped with a fan. I've already got a program card for it, so, you know, I didn't have to buy anything extra there. So at this point, I think we have all the electronics, so I can actually start gutting this guy and putting it together again for probably the 4th time now. Alright, so I couldn't resist. I just had to kind of Frankenstein it in here real fast. So we ripped out the old motor in ESC, stuck the new motor in, and temporarily, for testing purposes only, strapped down the ESC. So we ripped the old motor out, which is a Fireball modified 21 double. So this is a, you know, faster than stock motor, and with a double wind and a little bit more punch. But, you know, this thing's seen some abuse and time for an upgrade. So one piece of amazing luck, the 23 tooth pinion that came with the motor matches exactly the 23 tooth pinion that was in this truck. I may have to go smaller depending, but why I'm saying it's lucky is this is the large shaft motor. So this is the old school, you know, 1/8 inch shaft, and this is like the, I don't know, it's the fat one. So this is the more modern, you know, big shaft, and, you know, thankfully exact 1-to-1 replacement. So again, I may end up having to go down a few teeth on this. We'll see how it goes. I did one quick, you know, just, is it going to blow the wheels off of it bench test? And it doesn't. Now, that's a bench test. If this thing gets out there and, you know, full wheel pulls up the back tire, it's probably going to blow up the wheel or the tire or both. We'll see. But seems to be within an acceptable reason. So I'm going to continue kind of stripping it all down and sticking this stuff in permanently. One thing I didn't know this actually has a temperature wire in it to sense the temperature of the motor, so it has automatic high temp cutoff for the motor. I like that. I really don't want to cook this motor by running too tall of a gear in here. But anyway, the motor bolted up well. Speed control is going to sit right there on the shelf. I will have to get some other type of battery. This thing will take, I think, up to 4S. I know it takes 3S. I'm pretty sure it'll take up to 4S. Not going to happen. 3S shorty pack may fit in here, but I'm probably going to have to end up investing in one of the kind of round bottom lipos, or come in and nip the little bracing out of the chassis so the flat bottom will fit in there. I don't know. I'll figure that out as we go, but initial test, this thing should scream and should be a blast, so I'm looking forward to it. Alright guys, so I got everything installed, and, you know, there was some little bits and pieces that I kind of had to make work. The steering servo didn't want to go in. Basically that front shock tower that I made was sticking up a little bit, so I had to file that back so the front servo would go in. Obviously this is a little bit bigger servo than the kind of stockers that I had run in here before. So had to make room for that. Also, the battery that I have is just a Gold Bat 5200 hard case lipo. It's got the square edges on it. So I did have to come in here and knock out every one of those little tiny ridges that were kind of bracing. So there was 2 on the front up here, and the old NiCad packs, your batteries come out in the middle. Well, NiCad or NIM, they usually come right in the center. Whereas, you know, LiPo, they do whatever. Most of them kind of come out in that front corner now. But I had to take those off because this takes up every bit of real estate in there. Fits in there really nice and tight. The one thing I'm going to have to try to figure out is a battery hold down. This is the original battery hold down, and it was originally meant the receiver sat up here right behind the servo. So this kind of came in and smashed down on the servo, and I tried putting it on, you know, backwards, but because this battery is a little bit thicker, you know, this doesn't go all the way down. I don't want to modify this too much. The little modifications I've done on here are insignificant. I really don't want to modify this just in case one day I decide, you know, put it back to its original self and shelve it. I want to keep this piece. So I'll probably make something for that. It shouldn't be too difficult. So got the speed controller mounted and the receiver mounted. I put the switch right on top of the receiver. So all the wiring is right back here in one nice little neat tidy spot. And one of the oddities about the old Stampedes, I don't know if it's still on the new ones. I'm sure they've updated the chassis. Old servo wire was really thin. Well, the new servos, the wire is a bit thicker. So I had to back cut those little grooves in there so I could tuck that wire down in those slots. No big deal. I did take it out for a quick test. Just want to make sure everything was working. You know, steering was going in the right directions, and forwards was forwards, back was back. And it made it about 17 seconds. And I thought the slipper clutch was slipping. So let me turn it on real quick and let me show you. So we have steering, and the Stampede steering is not a whole lot, so it is what it is. But it's pushing, but not a whole lot. So I thought it was a slipper clutch. And then I cranked the slipper clutch all the way down, and, you know, it stopped slipping for another second or so. And then I took off, and it hopped, and when it landed, it started slipping again. And now what's slipping isn't the slipper clutch anymore. It's actually turning something else, and so yeah, something in the transmission is wonky. I don't know. It's really weird. It acts like the slipper clutch, but it's not, because that gear is just spinning away, and I can see the shaft is spinning. So it's going through. So somewhere in there, something is partially stripped out. All right, guys. I've tried recording the end of this video like 4 times now, and I think this is kind of where it's going to be. So Resuwrektion has gotten some deconstruction. I noticed that it sounded like the slipper clutch was screaming. You know, you just get that wee noise, and it was going, but it wasn't going. So, you know, okay, new brushless system versus old brush system. Okay, slipper may be slipping. So, came in, grabbed a T-wrench, went out there, tightened up, and still slipping real bad. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So, you know, in the tried and true method of troubleshooting, I cranked it all the way down until it was locked tight and expected it to go when I hit the trigger, and it still just went wee and didn't want to go anywhere. So it didn't make sense. The slipper clutch couldn't be slipping because it was cranked down so tight, but it wasn't grinding or anything to where it sounded like transmission noise. So I came in, took the cover off, took the slipper clutch out, and the pegs were worn down basically flush with the gear. So, okay, maybe it is slipping. So I ran down to the hobby shop, got another 12-pack of the little friction pegs, and I'll show a picture here so you know what I'm talking about. I installed the friction pegs, put the clutch back in, took it outside, and immediately, whee! I was really getting tired of that noise by then. So everything seemed right, but it wasn't. So I decided, okay, stop messing with it, just tear it down. It doesn't take that long. So this only takes, 10 minutes to pop out of the rear end. It's like 8 bolts, or 8 nuts and bolts, and you're out. But no, differential's fine. Nothing in there is wrong. So, cleaned up everything, re-greased everything. I did go through and replace some of the bearings because these are old metal shielded bearings on the outside. So I replaced all the bearings, so transmission, top notch. Didn't know what was happening. So, I started looking at everything else and found out the outdrive was stripped out. So this is the old style outdrive. So when you put this onto the transmission, there's a screw that goes in and holds it tight, and then there's a set screw on each side that holds it from spinning around on the outdrive of the transmission. So the grub screws that hold it tight and keep it from spinning were still tight. So I don't know what happened there, but basically this stripped out, and that outdrive was just sitting there spinning around inside of the collar that I just dropped. So I did have an extra, because evidently I had replaced one of these before. This old white one is original to the truck, and these white ones were tough, but they were prone to cracking because of the plastic in them. But until they cracked, they would take all kinds of abuse and punishment. This side is a newer one, and that plastic is a lot softer. Well, it works great on the newer style transmissions where those two little grub screws have been replaced with a pin that goes all the way through. Well, I can't use that pin on this outdrive. So the extra differential set I have has those outdrives in it. So now what I have to do is take this all the way back apart, put the new outdrives in this, or from this kit in here, and then I have to go get 2 new cups, because the problem that happened is as soon as I got all of this put back together and perfectly lubed up and ready to go, gear mesh and everything was perfect, put the outdrive back on, and I went to put the white one on, and it has the ginormous crack of doom. So tightening up those grub screws on that white one snapped that one. So now I have a stripped out black one, I have a perfectly good black one, and then I have a broken white one. So I'm still down an outdrive. So that's it for this video. I'm not going to, I have to order the parts. My hobby shop doesn't have them in stock. So I have to order the parts. So it's going to be another week. I'm sorry it's not a full build. We still have the body to go. So what I'm going to do, while I'm waiting for parts, I'm going to start working on the body, get that laid out, get that painted, and then by the time the parts come in, I should have the body done. We'll have that ready to go. I'll get the transmission back in, we'll test everything, and I'll bring you back for kind of a final review of Project Resurrection. And hopefully we don't break any more parts. I don't want this to be an eternal build. My wife certainly doesn't want this to be an eternal build. But anyway, guys, you know, not everything goes to plan. Oh, I did figure out a way to reuse the stock battery mount. It looks a little silly, but you'll never see it with the body on. So what I did is I just added 3 little tiny washers underneath of the posts, just enough to raise it up, and now this battery is in here, super secure. It doesn't rattle. It's not going anywhere. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, be happy, be healthy, be safe. I'll catch you next time, and hopefully next time it'll all be together. See you.